AITA for not being intimate with my husband after he said he misses my pre-pregnancy body? What happens when the person who's supposed to love you unconditionally makes you feel unworthy? Right after one of the most life-changing events of your life. 2 months postpartum, I was finally starting to feel like myself again, but then, one comment from my husband, after sex no less, completely shattered me. I can't stop replaying it in my head. Was I overreacting, or was he just being brutally insensitive? 2 months postpartum, I was finally starting to feel like I could breathe again. At least a little. The sleepless nights were still relentless, my body still sore from labor, but I was trying. I was pushing myself to go for short walks, starting light workouts, and reminding myself that healing is not linear. Even though the scale said I was up just over 10 pounds from my pre-pregnancy weight, my reflection in the mirror felt like a stranger. My core was weaker. My curves felt unfamiliar, and every outfit I used to love now looked different. Still, I was proud that I had carried and delivered a baby. I thought that counted for something, but apparently that pride wasn't shared. After an intimate moment with my husband, a rare one these days since exhaustion often wins, he made a comment that shook me. We were in the shower, still close, still vulnerable, when his hands paused and he said almost casually, "I miss your old body. You used to look so good in lingerie." And it took me a second to register it. My heart sank. In that moment, I didn't say anything. I just quietly finished the shower, dried off, and left to check on our baby. Maybe he didn't mean it to hurt. Maybe it was just a thoughtless comment. But for me, it echoed louder than anything else he'd said in weeks. What stung more was the timing. I was already feeling fragile, emotionally and physically. Between late-night feedings, changing diapers, and trying to steal a few minutes of rest whenever I could, the last thing I needed was a reminder that I no longer looked like the woman he married, that I had somehow lost my appeal just because I had created life. Still, I tried to be mature. I brought it up later, told him his words had hurt me. I explained how vulnerable I felt and how hard I was trying. He didn't apologize. He didn't soften. He just shrugged and said, "Well, it's true." Like that made it okay. That moment cracked something in me, not because I needed constant validation, but because I expected empathy, especially from the man who saw me grow, carry, and give birth to our child. Instead, I got honesty without compassion, truth without tenderness, and worst of all, judgment from someone who hasn't lifted a finger toward his own physical health in years. He doesn't work out, eats fast food constantly, and yet here he was, measuring me against my former self, like I had failed some silent standard. It wasn't just the comment. It was the reminder that while I was busy becoming a mother, he was still stuck in some version of the past, expecting me to bounce back, smile through the pain, and somehow maintain bedroom appeal without skipping a beat. But I'm not the same, and maybe, right now, I don't want to be. After that comment in the shower and his cold response when I tried to talk about it, something shifted in me. I didn't mean for it to, but it was like a curtain had been pulled back. I saw my husband not as a partner cheering me on during recovery, but as someone quietly watching, waiting for me to get back to who I used to be. And that hurt more than I expected. I started pulling away, not intentionally, not as a punishment, but because I didn't feel safe. Intimacy is hard enough when your body is healing, your hormones are a mess, and your self-image is fragile. Add in the weight of a partner's disappointment, and suddenly even small touches feel like pressure. I wasn't rejecting him. I was protecting myself. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He didn't notice the tears I wiped away in the car after workouts. He didn't see how hard it was for me to even show up for myself some days. And when he did notice the shift in our intimacy, he didn't lead with concern. He led with blame. "You're weaponizing sex," he said flatly. That sentence alone stung worse than the original comment. It turned my pain into manipulation, like I was playing games instead of genuinely struggling with my body and emotions. I felt like I was being accused of withholding love, when all I had been doing was trying to keep myself from falling apart. This wasn't a power play. It was survival. I don't think he understands the layers of vulnerability that come with postpartum recovery. It's not just physical. It's emotional, hormonal, spiritual. You're not only learning how to care for a newborn, you're relearning how to be in your own skin. And when the person who should be holding your hand through that process criticizes what he sees instead of celebrating what you've overcome, it cuts deep. I cried after the gym, not because of sore muscles or exhaustion, but because I had tried. I had tried to take back a piece of myself, to move in the direction of healing, and instead of support, I got silence. Instead of encouragement, I got a memory of who I used to be, held up like a mirror I could never quite fit into again. That comment became more than just a sentence. It became the echo in my head every time I changed clothes. It played in the background when I looked in the mirror. It wrapped itself around me like a second skin, one made of doubt and shame. And no matter how much I wanted to shrug it off, it lingered. I'm not mad because he missed my old body. I'm hurt because he said it out loud during a time when I needed to feel valued beyond my appearance. I needed him to see me, not just my reflection. And right now, I don't know how to be close to someone who doesn't even try to see the real me. The deeper I sat with everything, the comment, the lack of remorse, the accusation of weaponizing sex, the more I began to see something I had ignored for a long time. The double standards in our relationship. I hadn't noticed them before because I was always giving, always doing, always pushing through, but now that I had nothing left to give, they became impossible to ignore. My husband has never been into fitness. He doesn't care much about what he eats. Late night fast food runs, skipping breakfast, barely drinking water. These have been staples of his lifestyle. He's not overweight, but he's also not particularly healthy, and I've never made him feel bad about it. Never once commented on his body, his habits, or his lack of effort. I accepted him. I loved him for who he was, not just for how he looked, but for how he made me feel safe, supported, and seen. But now I wonder, was that love mutual, or was it conditional? Because while I was waking up every 2 hours to feed a newborn, navigating a roller coaster of hormones, and forcing myself to move my body again despite the pain, he was sitting on the sidelines, watching, judging, offering no help with the meals, no encouragement for the workouts, no compliments, no reassurance. Just one moment of brutal honesty that undid weeks of fragile progress. And yet, somehow, I was the problem. I was the one withholding. I was the one letting herself go. I was the one who needed to hurry up and return to who I used to be. All while he didn't lift a finger to change a single thing about himself. The irony is painful. He wants the lingerie. He wants the body I had before. But where's the effort on his end? Where's the emotional support? The romantic gestures? The basic acts of care that make a woman feel seen, especially when her whole identity is shifting? And the thing he doesn't understand is that intimacy doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins with connection, with kindness, with appreciation for the quiet, invisible work, the tears wiped alone, the discomfort endured silently, the discipline it takes to show up for yourself when you're already showing up for everyone else. And right now, I don't feel connected to him. I feel judged. I feel like a checklist he's waiting to tick off again. Body back? Check. Confidence back? Check. Ready for sex again? Check. But I'm not a checklist. I'm a person, a woman who just gave birth, a woman who's still healing, a woman who needs to be held, not measured. I don't need a perfect partner, but I need a present one. One who sees the work I'm putting in, one who celebrates effort, not just outcomes. One who understands that love means standing beside someone when they're vulnerable, not pulling away when they don't match your memory. And right now, that's what hurts most. Realizing that in my most human, most honest state, he chose critique over compassion. What continues to haunt me isn't just his words. It's how easily he said them. As if I wasn't standing there, raw and vulnerable, with stretch marks still fresh and my body aching in ways he'll never understand. As if everything I had just endured, the months of pregnancy, the pain of labor, the exhaustion of postpartum, meant so little in the face of a fading fantasy. I think what many people don't realize is how deeply postpartum can crack a woman open. Not just physically, but emotionally. Your identity changes. Your priorities shift. Your sense of self is constantly renegotiated between feedings, doctor's appointments, and 2 a.m. cries. You don't just wake up one day feeling like you again. Some parts of you never come back, and that's okay. But what you hope, what you need, is that the person who claimed to love you through all things will still see you in this new form. What I got instead was a man who wanted the before version, the one who wore lingerie and heels and made him feel desired. But what about me? Don't I deserve to feel desired too? Don't I deserve the kind of love that says, I see how hard this is, and I love you more for it? Because the truth is, I'm not just physically exhausted. I'm emotionally starved. I'm hungry for kindness, for warmth, for gentle touches that don't lead to expectations, for words that don't sting, for moments that feel safe again. But instead, I'm tiptoeing around my own home, avoiding intimacy not out of spite, but out of self-protection. If I give myself to him now, will it feel like love or just obligation? Will I be silently compared to who I was instead of celebrated for who I am now? He says, I'm weaponizing sex, but that accusation only proves how little he understands what I'm going through. This isn't about using intimacy as a tool. It's about needing time, space, and emotional safety to reconnect with myself. I can't offer physical closeness when my heart feels distant. I can't fake desire when I'm carrying invisible bruises from careless words. And maybe he doesn't mean to be cruel. Maybe he's just clueless. But that doesn't make the impact any less real. I wish he'd taken the time to ask, "How are you doing really?" or simply said, "You're amazing for everything you've done." I wish he held me after that comment and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize how much that would hurt you." But instead I was met with indifference, with a shrug, with silence. So now I carry this alone. And that's the hardest part. Not the body changes, not the healing, not the exhaustion, but the loneliness. The feeling that in the moment I needed love the most, the person closest to me looked the other way. And maybe that wound, quiet and unseen, is the one that takes longest to heal. In the days that followed, I kept hoping he would notice, that he'd see the way I avoided eye contact when changing clothes, that he'd realize my hesitation to be touched wasn't rejection, it was a silent cry for emotional connection. But the silence between us only grew louder. I felt myself fading, not just as a wife, but as a woman. There is something deeply lonely about sharing a home, a child, a life, and still feeling unseen. I've begun to understand that intimacy is not just about bodies meeting. It's about hearts understanding, about feeling emotionally safe enough to be fully present, fully vulnerable. And right now, that safety has been broken, not by a single comment, but by the lack of effort to repair what it damaged. I'm not trying to punish him. I'm trying to protect the small, flickering light inside me that's fighting to come back to life. Every moment I choose to go to the gym, to eat something nourishing, to breathe through the hard nights. It's a choice to fight for myself, not for his approval, not to fit back into lingerie, but for me. And that's what he doesn't see. He thinks I'm withholding something from him, but in truth, I'm learning to give something back to myself. For months, my body wasn't mine. It belonged to pregnancy, to pain, to a newborn who depended on me completely. Now, I'm trying to reclaim it, piece by piece, slowly, gently. But it's hard to do that when the person who should be cheering you on is silently waiting for you to hurry up and be hot again. What I need, what every postpartum woman deserves, is a partner who leans in with compassion, not impatience, who sees stretch marks as proof of strength, who sees exhaustion as a badge of love, who doesn't measure her worth by her waistline, but by her resilience. So no, I'm not weaponizing sex. I'm redefining it. I'm saying I won't give the most vulnerable parts of myself to someone who doesn't cherish them. I won't be intimate out of guilt or pressure. I'll only offer that part of me when it comes from a place of love, safety, and true connection. If he wants that version of me again, the confident, playful, open woman, then he has to meet her where she is now, not where she was before. He has to choose to love this version, the one who's tired and healing and doing her best. Only then can we rebuild what was broken. Maybe one day I'll be ready to slip into something sexy again. Maybe one day I'll want to surprise him like I used to. But if and when that day comes, it won't be because I felt pressured. It will be because I felt seen, not just as a body, but as a whole human being, worthy of love in every phase, every form, every fragile moment. That's what intimacy means to me now. Not perfection, but presence. And until that's something we can share again, I need space to protect my heart while I heal the rest.